In Chicago, organized crime and politics often go hand in hand, and such is the same in this movie, Widows. This centers around a political race for the alderman of the 18th Ward of Chicago between the dynastic Mulligan family, in this case Jack Mulligan, played by Colin Farrell, who is seeking to inherit the seat from his father Tom Mulligan, played by Robert Duvall, who is stepping aside after recently suffering a heart attack. Mulligan's challenger is Jamal Manning, who is actually an organized crime boss, kind of seeking to go a little bit more legit. Mulligan himself is kind of a carpetbagger in the sense that he's actually lived most of his life outside of the 18th Ward and has only recently purchased a house within the district in order to run for the seat. So, yeah. And on top of all of this, career criminal Henry Rollins, played by Liam Neeson, leads a gang in a robbery attempt of the Manning, basically the Manning campaign finances, and the attempt to get away, everyone winds up getting killed and the money is destroyed. Manning thus has to return to his criminal ways and go after Veronica Rollins, played by Viola Davis, in order to attempt to recoup whatever he lost. On top of all of this, Veronica discovers secret plans to break into a building that she doesn't know who, basically a journal left by her husband, and decides that the best way to pay back the debt would be to stage the robbery that her husband had been planning with the fellow widows from her husband's criminal team. This includes Alice, a woman, well, it's a woman. It was basically a Polish woman who basically comes from a long line of gold diggers and is encouraged to start an Ashley Madison account by her mother after her husband, played by John Barenthal, who was part of the crew, is killed. On top of that, you also have Linda, played by Eva Mendes, whose husband has gambling debts to the point that he gambled away the clothing store that she was running. So they basically can cut in on a $5 million deal to pay back the $2.5 million owed to Manning and hopefully cover the rest of their debts as well. There are a couple other non-widows. There's one non-widow. There's sometimes she's Belle, sometimes she's Val. Unfortunately, a criticism I do have to have with this movie is it's not very good with names. Alice is called Lisa and Eliza, and I mean these aren't even just they're using aliases. No. In some cases, Linda is Melinda and Amanda. There's also an Amanda who's the widows, who's not really part of the group at all. I'll get to that. And then Veronica Rollins, I don't know exactly. I didn't know her name until about 2/3 of the way through the film. She was just Mrs. Rollins the whole time. And heck, even the name doesn't really work, because sometimes it's Rollins and sometimes it's Rawlings. In fact, I believe the tombstone even says Rawlings. Yeah. So, yeah. In fact, that is a criticism, is sometimes I wish the film was a little more focused and introduced the characters properly. While this does seem like maybe it'd be a little bit of a women's empowerment story, not entirely, because we do have women who are occasionally using their bodies to, that sort of thing. Again, Alice uses her Ashley Madison account to hook up with several wealthy clients so that she can afford the items necessary to perform the robbery that they are planning, or that they plan to, stage, basically. Belle is a hairdresser who also works part-time as a babysitter. Also, apparently she might have been a track athlete at some point because she's really fast. And she's eventually brought on to be a driver. And, all on top of this, we have the political drama as well, because we have Manning against Mulligan. And Colin Farrell is basically, he's kind of if I may make the weird analogies, kind of part Kennedy, part George W. Bush, because you can tell it's he really doesn't want to be involved in politics, but because it's the family legacy and he has to kind of owe into it, and He actually wants to try to distance himself from his father a lot. His father's very, 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 very racist. And so, yeah, we get a little bit of that. We get some weird directorial choices, too. Like, there's one point where Mulligan goes on this rant about his campaign and how Manning is actually gaining on him at one point. Like, at the beginning of the film, it's 12 points, and then it's down to about, I think, a 6-point lead at one point. Yeah, it's like literally cut in half. And, like, Farrell is sort of venting about it. But it's all done in voiceover. You just see this car driving. And it's like, we couldn't cut to inside the car so we can hear him talking. Instead, it's just all on the outside with his wife / campaign advisor. Like, it's sort of implied, too, that that's going on as well. On top of that, it turns out that Veronica finds out, too, that her husband, Henry, was having an affair, and this could have been because they had a child. Veronica and Henry had a child who was killed because he was biracial. He passed for African American. He got killed during a routine traffic stop, and the stress may have pushed him a little bit that he started having an affair. And turns out that Amanda, this other widow that we were talking about, the father of her child is Henry, and yes, actually does play a part, because it turns out Henry staged his death. So yeah, this is not like a fun Ocean's 8 type caper movie. This is more of a caper drama, and I do mean drama. And the funny thing is, a lot of the stories work. Like, they're all intriguing. The performances are all really strong. They're really good. Elizabeth, I'm winging this pronunciation, Elizabeth Debicki as Alice is kind of the most interesting character in this, because you can tell, like, she does want to be more than what she's being forced to be. And when she tries to stand up for herself, she just constantly gets smacked down. Like, the John Barenthal character is abusive. Like, at the beginning, Alice has a black eye, and after he dies, again, Alice's mother is basically goading her, and again, slaps her on several occasions when she says, "I don't want that life anymore." But says, no, you want to be a sugar daddy because they will make more money. You want to make the money so you can go to college. Well, this will do that for you. And yeah, again, she points to Ashley Madison. Even at one point, in her low point, she does wind up hooking up with this guy who knows architecture, and again, becoming something of a sugar daddy. He says he's divorced, but I don't think it's revealed. But yeah, it seems to be implied that he's actually married. Like I said, the political stuff works. The crime planning stuff works. Unfortunately, when they start to get together and they mix, it doesn't quite work. It starts to get a little clunky and twisted. Like I said, it turns out that Henry is alive, and he actually turned on his crew. And he basically shot one of them, and then because where they were cornered, and he was trying to lay low even though the police were outside, and tried to said to escape out the back. Well, in reality, he shot one just as he was raising this garage door up, and everyone else gets shot in the process, and Henry slips out the back, and then the car explodes, so there's charred remains everywhere. There's no way they can identify everyone. Yeah. Now, I think Veronica pieces together that Henry is alive. And yeah, I know I'm giving way too much of this movie away, I'm sorry. But she does sort of piece together I think she pieces together that her husband's actually alive. But they stage the robbery anyway, which takes place on a debate night, because it turns out the place that Henry has been casing is actually the Jack Mulligan campaign headquarters. And they have to... So yeah, that's why it's important that it's being held during this debate, because the place is pretty much empty except for a couple security guards. And it turns out Tom Mulligan, and Mulligan actually catches them in the act of trying to get out, and a scuffle breaks out. He gets shot. Alice also gets shot. Obviously, Mulligan dies. This does enable Jack to actually win the election, by the way. They get down to their getaway vehicle, and it turns out Manning's brother, just a sec, let me check. It's David Kaluuya as, or Daniel Kaluuya as Jeteme. I'm winging that pronunciation, I apologize again. And he's basically waiting there because he found out about this notebook that had all the plans out. And Henry basically explains during the whole thing that what he said was, you should have just sold the notebook to me, give it and said, look, you want your money here, get that, you can hit his campaign, because, yeah, Henry was actually hired, but I don't know why Mulligan hired Henry. The only thing I could think of was to wound the campaign a little bit, even though, again, Mulligan was winning rather successfully. Yeah, this is where it gets a little too twisted and confusing. So yeah, like I said, overall, like, good elements of the film, strong elements of the film. However, when those elements get together, they don't entirely work. They get a little too twisted and confusing. The ending gets a little confusing as well because, basically because when the brother, the Manning brother is, he takes the money, but then the widows steal a car, chase him down, cause him to crash. They get the money back. They then drop Alice off at the hospital. They split up their fair share of the money. And that's where the confrontation between Henry and Veronica happens back at the headquarters. Veronica shoots Henry, makes it look like he killed himself, and then leaves. And then we get this weird coda where she pays someone on a campaign somewhere to build a school library. Yeah, again, that's kind of where it starts to peter out a little bit, unfortunately. So if you've somehow made it through all of this intense rambling, and I do kind of apologize for this, I'll try to sum this up better. Widows has good elements that really, really, really work well. Unfortunately, when they work well, they don't really work well together. It gets a little too convoluted, a little too twisted. Overall, I'm gonna have to give it a B. Like, it's still enjoyable. I still had good feelings with this, but not enough to say, oh wow, this is one of the best films of the year. Unfortunately, it kind of bogged itself down a little too much.
Wednesday.
It's a night to remember.
It's a whole new game.
I'll give you one more night in this house.
Blake's back on top in Dynasty. Then a star.
You're hurting in more ways than one, kid.
Push too far.
Don't come near me! Just stay away!
Robert Guillaume on Hotel.
Wednesday.
Okay, trailer time, and yeah, nothing really new here. We had Boy Erased. I covered this one months ago. I don't know if you remember it, but it's a movie about gay conversion therapy. Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe's son is possibly gay, and they send him to a conversion therapy clinic. After that, we had Holmes and Watson again, Robin Hood again, Creed 2 again. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and The Mule again to round things off. Now, with the next movie reviews, I'm hoping that I can get both Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Creed 2 done next week. I'm not entirely sure if I can. It might not even be either, unfortunately. See, normally, again, since August, I've been primarily going to the AMC theater in town. I had to join the Stubbs program after Movie Pass went, kablooey. And I talked about a little bit last week that I, had some financial problems. Those are, for the most part, cleared up. But I went to the AMC theater tonight because they had a screening for Widows set at 7 o'clock, and the place was closed. It's listed as being temporarily closed. They had a sign up saying they were temporarily closed. I then checked back on the app. I checked the app at, I want to say, 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, and they still had that screening listed. So this was apparently a recent development. I have contacted AMC. I just want to see, like, hey, is this going to be a long thing? Because, I'm paying $20 a month for this Stubbs plan, and if I can't use it, I don't really see much of a point in having it. They did tweet. I tweeted them. I emailed them, and they did get back, and they said they'll try to get to me as soon as they can. They've contacted the people just to see, like, well, okay, what's going on? You were closed. What's going on? We do have a weather advisory in effect right now here in Bismarck as well. They're saying it could be 3 to 4 inches of snow, but that's supposed to happen more tomorrow morning, not so much tonight. It's still there's no real precipitation right now, so, and the theater closes at like 10ish, so they wouldn't really have had to worry too much about snow. So I don't know if it's that or if there's something else going on. But like I said, if they're not open, I probably might not be able to do any movie reviews for at least a few more weeks. I mean, I'd like to have a little bit money left over for Christmas. Obviously, like I said, finances are getting tight. Like I said, I gotta buy Christmas gifts, and I gotta pay off a car insurance bill. And like I said, I had to transfer some funds over from other places to cover my Stubbs membership and a couple other things, and pay a credit card bill, and you're getting the point. So again, hopefully next week I'll be able to do Rough Breaks the Internet and Creed 2, but if not, I mean, I'll try to keep you abreast. Anyway, on a lighter note, the next video up after this is probably going to be the random trade review on Aliens Fast Track to Heaven. I'm putting that up early so that way I could do the 2 wrestling shows this weekend kind of back to back. Because I'll put the Aliens review will be up on Saturday. The NXT War Games review will be up on Sunday. Survivor Series will then be up on Monday. Okay, so thank you for being through this. See you all next time. Hey guys, is there a movie you want me to tackle? If it's some stinker like Baywatch or the Emoji Movie or something else? Check out my Patreon at Sleepy Time for Cat Productions. See how you can make that happen.